Tim, thank you for your time today. I had the pleasure of reading your book, COVID Curveball, and it was a blast. I'm based out of Toronto, so I'm a longtime Blue Jays fan. However, through the MLB app, there's quite often I go to sleep hearing you call the West Coast Dodgers game. So about midnight here on the East Coast, for the sixth inning of the Dodgers game, I get to fall asleep listening to you call a game. So to read, sorry, your book was a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Ryan. I appreciate it. A broadcaster never wants to hear people are falling asleep to their broadcasts, but I understand what you mean. Being out on the West Coast, oftentimes people do listen to us later in the evening and into the night. And, I get that. I would do the same thing when I was out East. I would listen to the games at night with other broadcasters. But no, I appreciate it. I'm glad you enjoyed the book. It was just kind of a journey from start to finish, from spring training to summer camp, all the way through the regular season, day to day, and all the way through the World Series, and just all the little speed bumps that were hit along the way. But, most importantly, it just kind of showed what we had to do, not only as broadcasters, but what the players had to do and the franchises had to do in order to put on a season, to provide a much needed distraction from what was going on in the world last year, one of the worst years anybody's ever had. So baseball was kind of a respite. It was an escape. And what we were going through and what we had to do to make sure that we pulled the season off. And I just wanted to take people kind of inside it from my perspective. And I wasn't going to attempt to take anybody inside the clubhouse or inside the locker room because we weren't allowed. We weren't allowed in there. But just to kind of take it to the ballpark where we were allowed, and to just bring people more of an inside view of the strangest, most odd baseball season ever.
At which point was it spring training when it wasn't the season got put on hold? Did you realize you had to start documenting it via a journal or however you documented these notes? What point did you realize that you had to keep a record of this unique, challenging baseball season?
It was during quarantine. It was early in the quarantine. We'd already had spring training to a bit, and then the big shutdown, and we were all sent home. So during quarantine, I was actually taking a walk in the woods in the White Mountains in New Hampshire with my wife. We were quarantining up there in a cabin just away from humanity. And while we were out with the dog in the woods, I kind of was thinking out loud, and I said to her, what if I did this? What if I just kind of journaled every day, kept a diary of what was going on, because we didn't know what it was going to be like. I didn't really set out so much with the intention to have a book published as I just wanted to have a record of it. And I said, you never know. I go, Dodgers, pretty good team. They might win the World Series. They might not. But I think I should journal it every day because it's going to be such a unique experience, so unique that, none of us have ever gone through any of this before. So maybe I'll chronicle it. And then she said, yeah, you definitely have to do that. And so I did. And what I did was during quarantine, I kind of caught up from what happened in the off season, beginning of spring training to the shutdown day, and then a few things during quarantine, and then started doing the day-to-day as I got back to Los Angeles for the start of what was called summer camp, the inter-squad stuff that they did for weeks, and had spring training at Dodger Stadium, which was totally different than having it in Arizona or in a lot of teams' cases in Florida too. So that was very different and bizarre and strange. But, talk about all the testing, not only that we did with the Dodgers, but, what the things that Major League Baseball was doing every week to keep people safe. And all the way through Game 6 of the World Series. I mean, the Dodgers made a lot of sacrifices, and they did a lot of things where they didn't have a single positive test until the 6th game of the World Series. And honestly, Ryan, the most 2020 thing about the 2020 baseball season was the fact that Justin Turner stayed in the game longer with a positive COVID test than did Blake Snell for the Rays, a pitcher who was dominating and who was taken out due to analytics. That was like the most 2020 thing I could think of about the 2020 baseball season. Once Snell left the game, 6 pitches later, the Dodgers had the lead. 6 pitches later, and they captured the World Series that night.
Now, for someone whose career is doing radio broadcasts, what were some of the challenges like keeping a journal or keeping a written document? Did you do audio notes to yourself as well, or how did you kind of mix that up?
I would make mental notes during the day. Sometimes I might even write something in my scorebook if something happened, or I had a notepad next to me. But the one thing I did, or I should say the one thing I didn't do, was I didn't tell anybody.
Yes.
I didn't tell my partners. I didn't tell anybody with the team. I didn't tell anybody because I didn't want anybody to say, hey, this would be good for your book, or don't put that in the book, or whatever. So I waited until the last day of the regular season before I told my boss. And then I started telling the people around me a little bit about what I'd been doing the whole year. And I said, don't worry, this isn't a tell-all expose kind of thing, but it just chronicles what happened. Things that people don't know, some of the stories, like, what was going on in the sky above Dodger Stadium during batting practice when the Houston Astros came in. And what about where my radio broadcast partner, Rick Monday, was staying during the COVID season, and also for the first half of this year. He's not there anymore, but it was a really unique thing. And we took advantage of that some nights after games. There is just so many different aspects. It's not 100% Dodgers either. There's other stories about other people and things from other teams, different stories that I've never told before, other things that I think people may not have realized, like, okay, why do we play the last game of the regular season at the same time, East Coast to West Coast? Well, I was at one of the games that determined that rule change several years ago. So I tell that story and, different things. But I think people will enjoy it. I think what people will really enjoy too is the way the book starts with Orel Hershiser, the MVP of the 1988 World Series. He was gracious enough to do the forward. He did a very in-depth forward. It takes us inside of his brain, what was going on when he was just about standing on the rubber and ready to wrap up the last game of the 1988 World Series, what he was thinking. He stepped off the rubber for a second and kind of took a look around, and he takes us into his brain and his mind at that point in time. And then after he threw that last pitch, the chaos that ensued from having to remember to film the Disney commercial that was going on live at that time, and kind of how he related to Corey Seager, now the 2020 World Series MVP, and how he related to Julio Urias, who had gotten the last out, something that, he did himself, and how that changed his life and how it would change their lives, both personally and professionally. So, but I think that it's just kind of a deep dive into the season and a chronicling of what happened on a day-to-day basis, the good games, the bad games, the mistakes they made, the positives, the home runs, the wins, the losses, and all the stuff in between.
What was the most challenging part of writing this book? You had the notes, you had the base, but to go from there to actually writing a book is a huge jump. What are some of the challenges, or what's the biggest challenge you faced?
Well, this was my first time through it. Fortunately for me, I've got 2 really close friends from college that are both New York Times best-selling authors. So I had a couple of guys to lean on when it came to the process, and they were very gracious with their time and advice, and saying, this is what you need to do. My agent was very instrumental. He thought it was a great idea, and he basically secured a book agent for me, who then went out and shopped the book to all the publishing houses. And then, one of the subsidiaries of Simon and Schuster came in. They said, yeah, we're going to do this, and this is what we're going to do. And, I know there was another chronicling of a season that was done for the Yankees, but this one was a little different because the Dodgers won the World Series. They went the whole route, and it was somebody who was there observing it, chronicling it, both radio and television. So I also do TV. I'll do about 30 TV games a year normally. During the COVID season, I actually did more games on TV last year than I did on radio, the way the schedule went. So it was just, wacky. And then the games that I wasn't doing, I would be there in one of the luxury suites in the front row. And it sounds really fancy, but it wasn't. So it was pretty crazy. Um, and there's a picture in the book of where I sat, and if you look at that picture, it doesn't look too luxurious. So it's just one of those things. But I think the challenging part was the actual process, and then learning about it, and then having the editor tell you, no, this stinks. It has to be written this way. We have to change this. And then they go to the copy editing process and the proofreading process. And this is why it takes so long to release a book. And they said, yeah, we want to release it at the end of August 2021. I go, really? That's a long time. They go, oh no, we're rushing. Like, oh, okay. So it just showed me how little I knew about the publishing industry. But to do the artwork, to have the Dodgers, kind of in on it with me, I guess, in a support role. We've got exclusive photos. The cover photos that you see are from the Dodgers, from the great John Suhu, who is one of the best baseball photographers in the league. And the Dodgers were very supportive in helping me procure those, and so I could have them and share them with readers everywhere. So, you have to have a lot of help. You have to ask a lot of favors, and it's a different process, that's for sure. But I think those are some of the challenging things. It's just to put it all together when you have a publisher that says, yes, we want to publish this. Here's what we have to do. Go. And now all of a sudden I have a new full-time job. That's publishing a book and promoting it. And, I've got to get ready I've got a game tonight with the Pittsburgh Pirates I've got to prepare for too. So, so there's a lot of challenging aspects time-wise as well.
With that in mind, I'll get you out of here on this note. I've had the pleasure of reading an actual hard copy, which I appreciate. And I'm going to blame you for this nice red sunburned face because I moved to the lake. I was reading all last week on the dock, your book. I loved it. My final question for you, though, is I don't think it's been released to the public yet. I think it's the end of this month.
Right.
So my question is, when's the official release date, and where can listeners get their own copy of this book to read and enjoy as the Dodgers gear up to defend their world championship?
Yeah, they're getting position. They're still behind the Giants, but they're working on it right now. And it's going to be a fun end of the season this year. But if people want to get the book, the easiest thing I tell everybody, there's multiple places to get it, and it will be released on the 31st to the public. But the easiest place, it's one-stop shopping, is Amazon. Just go to Amazon, search COVID Curveball. There you can find the hardcover version, comes in Kindle version, and now it's an audiobook. And I did the recording for the audiobook as well. So the audiobook is now available as of this week. So you can order it in any format you want, multiple formats, however you want to do it. There's another thing that we do too, because we can't do as many book events because the bookstores aren't having in-person signings right now due to COVID still. So we're kind of doing them sort of virtually, I guess, through social media. So if you follow me on Twitter, you'll find out when I offer them. I have limited copies that come to me from time to time. And then I'll offer them on Twitter as signed copies. And there's no extra charge for them. It's the same price you pay on Amazon, except for, a little extra shipping, but that's it. And I personalize it and I'll sign it. I do them all individually, and then we send them out. And we've been selling out of them when I get them in, which has been a good sign, but we will have more available coming up soon for people to order that way. They can just direct message me on Twitter, Facebook, or Instagram, say they'd like a signed copy, and then I give them the details and we work it out, and I'll ship them out. I'll actually personally do it. Like I said, it's my new full-time job, but that's another way to do it. And we're working right now on trying to have some actual virtual book events on Zoom, which we're trying to finalize all the mechanics of, where folks who buy the book can get together with me and somebody with the Dodgers and talk about the Dodgers, talk about the book, talk about baseball, and you have us for a half hour or whatever, 45 minutes, and it's all part of the package. So that's one of the other things we're looking at, is doing some virtual book events on Zoom pretty soon. But the best bet for right now, go check it out on Amazon. If you like what you see, go ahead and order it pre-sale. And I've even had people saying, look, I'm buying 4 and 5 of these. I'm giving them out for Christmas. I'm like, well, yeah, okay. I guess it's not too early to Christmas shop. So, I'm surprised that people are that organized, but they are. And I've actually had 2 requests in the last 2 days for Christmas presents.
Perfect. All right, Tim, thank you for your time, and enjoy chatting with the book with everyone else in these virtual Zoom chats, and enjoy covering what's hopefully another long Dodgers playoff run.
Yeah, we hope so. I thank you for having me today. I think the baseball season's a heck of a lot of fun. To have it back full, 162 games. I'm most happy to see the Blue Jays get to play back in Toronto. I'm just so happy to see that. So happy for my friend Ben Wagner to get back on the radio, and just to see them playing at Rogers Center again. I've been there many, many times, and it's just a wonderful place, wonderful city, great baseball fans. And they've had the hardest road of all, because to play in Buffalo, Dunedin, back in Buffalo,
Tampa.
now, the Tampa, they've been the home team in road stadiums. But to see them get home games now was really special. I watched their first game and the ceremonies and everything, and I was just like, all right, that's great. Happy for Buck and Pat and of course Dan on the TV side. Those guys are great dudes too. So I was just really thrilled to see the Blue Jays back in Toronto.